Hiring the wrong executive costs you time and money. Leveraging work psychology, Spirit Consulting helps you hire the right executive so you can focus on growing your business. For a free quote, visit spiritmco.com. Enjoy the show.
So welcome back to the Tips for Team Building podcast, where our mission is to inspire and propel others along in their leadership journeys. So excited to continue the series today with Phil Harrison. Phil, appreciate you taking the time. For those who don't know you, we always like to start the show with a very easy question. Who are you?
Oh, thanks for having me on. So who am I? I would say, first and foremost, I'm a person that's driven by mission. And I think looking at my career path and where I'm at and how I've gotten here, I've always been attracted to a place or an entity, something that has a purpose, has that mission. And I think that's really driven to me, my work. So I'm born and raised here in Spokane, Washington, lived here my whole life. And with that mission, I love community. And one reason I left Spokane to go to school for a little bit out on the other side of the state here in Washington, but I came back because I do really love this community. And I think that's the second piece of who I am, is I really do value building that community and being part of something. So I look at whether, when I work out at the gym, I do take classes because I like that classes and I like that community feel. When I go to the gym, I look to join different activities because I enjoy my friends or, those interests. So, I play softball on Monday nights, and I do that because I enjoy that collaboration, that team atmosphere, that community. I picked up skiing because all my friends were doing it. I wanted to be a part of that. I don't want to say I've picked up golf. I struggle through golf. And that's also because, it's something that my friends enjoy. And there are times that I do enjoy it. But with that being said, I doing those things to be around family, to be around friends, and to be a part of the community.
Awesome. Yeah, I have tried my hand at, like putt and top golf and
Yep.
quickly learned that it was not my specialty, but definitely a game that I know a lot of people really enjoy. So I want to kind of build that up to at least be respectable, right?
Exactly.
I don't have to be good. I just want to be respectable.
That's where we're trying to get right now. Respectable.
I love it. So Phil, you kind of mentioned, how that sense for community and mission driven work has really driven your career as well. So could you tell our audience a little bit about how you've gotten into the leadership position that you're in today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to the University of Washington for my undergrad, and at the time I had no idea when I first started what I wanted to do. I had a million ideas, and I realized that I wanted to be a teacher through my time at UW. And so once I graduated with an English major. I was going to go back and get my master's in teaching because really I liked working with people. I did a couple of TAs and student teaching classes while I was at UW. I worked for a summer camp in the summer. So obviously I like working with kids. I like that mentorship. I grew in a leadership role during those summers where I got to work more with the staff and have that leadership role. And after I graduated, that summer camp I was working for, YMCA Camp Reed here in Spokane, there was an opportunity for a program job as a program coordinator full time. And I was like, I would love to do that. Maybe I'll work for a year or so and then go back to school and just, I love the camp. I love what I was doing there. And so it was a more expanded leadership role. So I hopped into that and realized that the part of teaching I was attracted to was that coaching, that mentoring, working with people. And one of the reasons I chose English is I thought English allowed for an opportunity to allow me to mentor more than maybe some other subjects. Not to say that one subject isn't better than the other. That was just my perspective on it. And I felt that with English, I could be an avenue for students to express themselves, to discover themselves, and to really develop. So during my time at YMCA Camp Reed, I realized I liked working with people. So then Gonzaga University here in Spokane had a master's program in organizational leadership. And so it really did align, and I could do school at the same time while also working full time, and that it was a long couple of years to be busting out some schoolwork. But with that being said, I was able to get my master's, and really did discover I had a knack for working with people, for leading people to read, what individuals needed to be successful, and doing everything I could to uplift them. And then from there, I was able to excel to the position. I took another opportunity with Dorian, a school photography company, and marketing, just to see something different, get new experiences, and then ultimately came back as the executive director for YMCA Camp Reed. And during my time, I once again realized I know how to work with people. I'm good at leading a team. I had to build a team of 50 to 75 people each year. Fundraising was something that I was, getting good at and figuring out. So, those steps kind of continue aligned, and then was fortunate enough to come upon this opportunity here at the Ronald McDonald House. And I've been here since September of 2021. So just about 9 months.
Awesome. I love how that journey kind of started with, I'll stay here for a year.
Yeah. Yep.
And you quickly, I think that happens to a lot of people, where you quickly kind of realize, like, oh, I actually like this. I'm good at it. Like, let's make a career out of this. And it's so funny thinking to, like, when we, just get out of school and, we have absolutely no clue what it is. Like, and that just further kind of solidifies, like, you had one plan and then very quickly went to the next plan, and, have just made a tremendous career out of it and have been super successful in doing so. So kudos to you, Phil. One of the things that really stuck out to me about, just in interacting with you, Phil, and, feedback that I've heard, is just that piece around building relationships. And that's something that you talked about as well, as, building and leading those teams, and mentorship, and all that comes with that. Just want to hear more about kind of your approach and philosophy as to how you build relationships as a leader.
Yeah. So you talked about the team. I talked about softball and golf. So sports is something that's always been prevalent in my life. So the concept of a team is something that has been, I've been embedded in since kindergarten when I was playing baseball, and all through my years. So that concept of team, and understanding that everyone has their roles to play, and that, the all-star pitcher plays the same role as the guy who's sitting on the bench and waiting to get his opportunity. And, been on teams where I was the best player, and been on teams where I was not the best player. I had to run the scoreboard or run the books for baseball or whatever it is. But everyone has their role to play and how you contribute. So, my approach to relationship is, I think the pandemic has really showed us this, that you have to have that relationship with your staff. And obviously every relationship is different. My relationship with my finance director, someone who I work very closely with, is going to be very different than, a relationship with one of our family service coordinators who's more on the front line. Not to say I can't have relationships with both, but it is important to me that is there. And so some things that are really important. So I try to reflect, because I have, grown pretty quickly from a frontline person to now in a leadership roles, to remember those times when I was on the front line. Hey, what was important to me in those opportunities? So it's really, to me, it's doing a lot of the little things and trying to do them as best as you can. And so one, everyone talks about it, but communicating as much as possible. Try to be as open, communicative, willing to listen as much as possible. Along with that, just being present, I think, is really important, whether that's physically in a meeting or, one little thing that I do here. So here at the Ronald McDonald House, we have two houses. They're right across the street. My office mainly is across the street. Today, I'm actually working out of the North House. And so that's an example. It's this, I'm intentional that, hey, there are some days I'm going to work over here so the staff over here can see me, and I park in the garage. I could walk outside directly too, or, I make sure to come through the house just so people can see and say hello. So it's little things like that I try to be very intentional, or also understanding that everyone has different needs. There are some folks who, when we sit down to meet, they just want to hop right to work. And so it's like, if we have to hop right back to work, then we're going to hop right back to work. And I'm going to have my agenda. We're going to knock it out. There's other folks who it's like, hey, we need to have that sit down 5-10 minute touch base and just say, hey, how you doing? How are your kids? Or, oh, hey, you went golfing this weekend. Hey, did you run your marathon? How did it go? X, Y, and Z things, just showing that interest in them. Because that, like I said, every person's different. So some people want you to have that value in their personal life, and other people are just like, hey, we're here to get work done. So it's making sure that you understand that every person is different, and your relationship and your approach has to be different too.
Yeah, absolutely. And love that. I mean, just kind of that leadership style that's adaptive to what people are seeking in their leader.
Yep.
So Phil, for those people who are looking, because you kind of have this like philosophy that's present, and I call it old school leadership of like, work is work, personal is personal, and you don't mix the two. But it sounds like you're very open to like, hey, how's the family going? How are the kids? Your son had a baseball game. How'd that go? Whatever it is. How do you manage to, draw the line between that personal and professional life, when creating those relationships, or is that even a concern of yours?
I think concern is maybe, I don't want to say too harsh of a word, but it has a negative context. I think it's something just to be aware of, is to understand, when am I overstepping my bounds, or when am I not stepping enough? So, for example, we had an employee who just bought a house, and that's something that they have been actively talking about. So this goes to just active listening with my employees. If I have an employee who's, hey, I have to take off. I work early. Is that okay? We're going to go look at a house. Okay, great. This person is actively telling me and talking about all the searching and all the houses. So this is something they're invested in. They didn't have to tell me any of that. They just said, hey, I have to take off early. Okay, great. No worries. Yeah, sounds good. But the fact that they are keeping me updated shows me that I have to have that investment back. So then if I have an employee who is maybe not as willing or doesn't, show that, like, that doesn't mean I can't ask those questions, just to say, like, for those employees, I might just be like, hey, how was your weekend? Just very blanket statement. And if it's like, oh, it was good, me and my kids, we did this and we did this and we did that, and then I got a layout there and I did some yard work, then it's like, okay, this person is inviting me in. But if it's, it was good, it's like, okay, I understand there that, like, that active listening. Okay, this is a person who maybe doesn't need or doesn't want me to be as involved. So I think it's a little of both, and also understanding who you're talking to. As a younger leader, I do have to be aware that, especially with some of my directors and board members and other folks that I work with, it's a generation that is maybe above mine. And so I have to be aware that, my approach, how I may speak, those conversations have to be a little different as compared to, when I am working with, other staff who are closer to my age. Like, I also understand, like, if they're looking at me, they, some of those folks want me to they want to see that I am a normal person. And I do want to be a normal person. I want to show that. I think that's one reason why I've got here, is I've never been afraid to say, this is who I am. Like, this is what it is. And this is who I am. And so, when I'm having those interactions, so it's finding that balance of, am I still being true to myself, but also being responsive to what the other person needs.
Have you been feeling unfulfilled? You want to be happy, but just continue to struggle. One of the best ways to experience joy is by caring for the homeless. A charity I've grown to love, River of Light, food rescues 1 million meals per year for the needy in Chicago. Imagine how that makes you feel, knowing that you're helping feed children and veterans. To make a tax-deductible donation, visit riveroflightchicago.org. Again, riveroflightchicago.org. No one should go to bed hungry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that approach. And I think that, yes, like a place and a culture where you feel like you can be just your authentic and full self is what's just going to allow you and kind of unlock that potential, that you have, and likewise for your staff as well.
Yeah. And I would also add, like, it's also important for those things. as we're talking here, is like, it can't all be fun all the time. But when it is time to buckle down, I have built that trust and that relationship to say, hey, we will have that time when we're going to, be ourselves and relax. But hey, right now we got to buckle down.
Yeah, we've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Phil, you mentioned how you recently stepped into this new role at the Ronald McDonald House. So maybe this is something you've recently faced, or maybe it's something that, in a previous role that you faced or a previous organization. But can you tell me about a time where you had to adapt to an established culture when entering into a new position, a new organization, and kind of those specific challenges you faced and how you handled that?
Yeah, great question. So I'll first go back to my time working for Dorian, a school photography company. I don't know anything about cameras. I don't know anything about school photography. Up until that point, I'd only really worked in nonprofits other than working as a courtesy clerk at Safeway. So up until that point, like nonprofits and working with kids really was all I know. Now in school photography, yes, but I was going into marketing. And so when going into a new culture and a new environment, one of the big things I keep bringing this up, but just listening and asking questions and just trying to understand, all right, what is this culture? Who are we? And what are we trying to establish? And so when coming to the Ronald McDonald House, those first few weeks and, still obviously asking those questions and learning, I was trying to meet with as many people as possible and just try to ask questions. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned when transitioning to a new position, because every culture is different. And so just trying to be a fly on the wall and just try to listen, ask questions of the whole gambit, not just, the high donors or the board members or my direct reports, but also, I had a sit down conversation with a few family service coordinator staff here at our North House. I went out to our North Idaho house, did the same thing. So really trying to touch and interact with as many folks as I could, just so that way, I could try to gain that understanding of culture. And then from there, it was really, I would say, working alongside my direct reports, and I still do that. But I think in a transition, it's really important to sort of walk along with them, so you get an understanding of, all right, this is who they are, this is how they lead, this is how they work. And then on top of that, you see their staff, how they work, how things operate, and then you get a clearer picture of the whole. So
yeah, definitely important to invest that time on the front end, because if you don't, then you get to the back end, you're trying to roll out, new things, and they're like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. And I would say, after going through this transition, one thing, and being this is such a leadership role, that I would be very mindful of any future transition or any advice to anyone, is understanding it also comes in phases. There's the first month or first couple of months where there's the feel it out stage. People are trying to get to know you, you're trying to get to know them. And then there's okay, we're comfortable, we can put a little more on your plate here. And then there's the next stage where it's like, okay, you're ready to start really taking it on. So it's like there's always a learning curve to happen. It's just that point when you feel like you've got a handle on things, just be ready for that next moment of, okay, I got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, love that. So Phil, you are just a very, very bright guy with a lot of great ideas, and I'm sure from your time at the Y saw a lot of great ways to do things, a lot of maybe not so great ways to do things, throughout your career. And now you're have entered into this role at the Ronald McDonald House. And we talked about, the culture and how you adapt to that. But, when thinking about operational improvements or just, the organizational improvements, how do you balance new initiatives, trying new things out, versus improvements to what's already there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple factors that go into it. One, I think just where the organization, where the staff is at. So having a good feel of hey, right now, because of X, Y, and Z. So right now, for example, we had the most families ever stay with us. We had 40 families stay with us about 3 weeks ago. And we've been running at a pretty high occupancy, which is great. And we planned for it. It just came a little sooner than we anticipated. And so with that, now's not really a time where we want to be trying to implement some new changes and some new initiatives. So just, knowing how the staff is doing. So it's having a feel for where your staff is at that moment, where the organization is at. So it's like, okay, hey, right now, this is not the time because of X, Y, and Z reasons to take on new change. And then, there are other times, hey, it's slowed down, so right now we're also like in high event season. We just had an event on Friday. We have another one coming up in a month. So right now, from a development standpoint, family service, because my time is really locked up in development, now might not be the time to implement a whole bunch of new changes. If, let's say, hypothetically, like there was some new staff coming in with family service, that might not be the time to put in a bunch of new concepts. Now, let's say we weren't going through that. That would be a great opportunity. So I think timing is one. And then two, I think it's bringing in your key stakeholders. Once again, going back to the team atmosphere. So, if we're going to make an improvement or make a change, hey, am I making this change on my own, or am I bringing in key stakeholders who are going to have a say in bringing them to the table? Sometimes that's, hey, I'm thinking about this. Can I get your opinion? Great, cool. I got your opinion. I've gathered. Okay, hey, this is what we're going to do. There are other times because maybe there are gaps in so many different areas. It's like, hey, we just got to come together and we got to talk about it. So I think it's understanding that situation and then bringing in your key stakeholders.
Awesome. And kudos to you and the team for those high occupancy numbers and just being able to, continue to grow the impact of the Ronald McDonald House in the Inland Northwest.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a fun couple of weeks. We've had families. So we fill our North house first, which is our new house. And then we fill the original house second. And so for the last, basically since the start of April, we have had families in the South house, which is the longest time we've had. So we've been a pretty consistent 36, 40 families for the last month, which is, like I said, it's exciting because we anticipated it. It's also a little, people are working pretty hard right now, which is, kudos to the team for doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not exciting, like knowing the circumstances of why, families have to be in the house, but it's exciting knowing that you guys are providing that service to be able to, support during that time. And, just absolutely love the mission of the Ronald McDonald House. So, Phil, you've mentioned, a couple times just being that younger leader. And I would, go out on a limb and say, you might be one of the youngest leaders that we have on the podcast here, and, maybe not, but maybe so. So, what to kind of talk about, how you've gotten there. And you've talked about, why you were so, kind of drawn to education at first and then nonprofit, and, especially with organizations that had like an impact on children and being able to work with kids and, provide a service for them. So mentorship is, something that it sounds like is very important to you. And I'm sure that you couldn't have gotten into the role that you've gotten into, so quickly without some mentors, in your career. So can you tell me, kind of some more about the mentors you've had in your career, the impact they've had, and how you're kind of, giving back now that you're in this type of position to try to develop that next generation of leaders?
Yeah. So I would say I've been very fortunate and blessed to have some really strong role models and mentors in my life, some of who I still call on a pretty regular basis. And so I think it starts, once again, going back to my time at YMCA Camp Reed. As a camper, mentorship and role modeling is something that they really preach, and you look up to these people, and looked up to my camp counselors. And so as a kid, you want to be that camp counselor. And so when I had that opportunity, I wanted to have that same impact on a kid. And then from there, obviously with camp, there's quite a few that I've been able to build. Some that definitely have stood out. Both like one when I was just as a summer camp counselor, a guy named Landon Crescelius. He works at Whitworth University. Just someone who was in the role that I eventually took as the program coordinator, that just had a great way to work with people and was so even keeled. I think I never saw him rattled, which was incredible. And I just felt like he knew who he was and was true to himself. And then from there, was able to meet Ryan and Katie Harntoe. They're two close family friends. I've got to watch their kids grow up. And Katie is now CEO of marketing, or not CEO. She is marketing. I'm going to mess up her title. She's at Amazon and she's in charge of marketing. She is an absolute boss. I call her all the time to pick her brain for advice because she just works incredibly hard. But at the same time, she's also very much about her family. Both Ryan and Katie, for that matter. But they're both about family, and they have for folks who work so hard and accomplished so much, and to still be invested in family and to have that connection and have friends and build that community and be a part of something. That is something that I want in my life, is to have family, to be a part of community, but also to be successful and be that mentor. So those are two individuals that really stand out. In my time, once again, with camp, there's a few board members who grown really fun relationships with that I continue to reach out and talk to on a regular basis. My former board chair, Allison Connolly, someone who I reach out to. Steve Smith, he's retired. One board member, Mima Scarpelli, she's on our board, which is very cool that I get to have that relationship still continue. And then the last person that I will stay, his name is Joe Fern. I got to work with him for a few years. He was a former director out of camp, and we got to work together in 2014 and 2015. And just had a huge impact on my life. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer a few years back. But just an incredible person. Just an incredible guy, because he was someone that I could really confide in. And anytime I was thinking about a career shift, he was someone who I could go to and pick his brain. And it wasn't just me. He was that person to so many other folks. And so that inspiration, that it just doesn't have to be, you can be a mentor to more than one person. It can be to everyone. So then that translates to where I'm at now. So during my time at the Y, I always tell the staff, you need a reference, please list me. I'd be happy to help you out. One of the things that I was really big on is if staff were going to not come back the next summer, to try to have like a 15-30-minute conversation just to say, hey, you're gonna be pursuing a career. That's why you're maybe moving on from this summer job. What questions do you want to ask? Is there any advice I can give you? And so making sure I can be that sounding board. And especially now that I've stepped away, I'm looking forward to more of them coming back. And I've already had a couple. It's like, hey, can we meet up? I just want to pick your brain. Or hey, of course, I filled out plenty of references, but being able to pick their brain. And then here with this staff, we're going through some transition and looking at our org chart. So here I really want to identify talent because someone did that for me. They identified me as a young talent. And so I want to make sure that I give back in the same way, as if we have talent here, let's keep them here, because that's how we're going to continue to build a strong house. So who's our young talent? How do we promote them? How do we set them up for success? So let's not put them in a position where they're going to fail. And then how can we continue to build them up? What tools do they need? So whether it's training, education, more hands-on experience, supervision, whatever it is, let's have that discussion so we can give them opportunities that they can continue to learn and grow.
I love that. And it sounds like you've had just some incredible, people in your life, and always love to just kind of, be able to highlight that and highlight as well for our audience of, seeking out those mentors as well. Jumping on LinkedIn and just finding someone who shares common interest and trying to build up a relationship. But the same way for like the executive leaders, it's like, you do it, you provide mentorship to be able to help that person. But when you are a mentor, I'm sure that you could speak to this as well. Like you get so much fulfillment for yourself as well. So, you don't want to like go out there, with the intention of, oh, I'm just going to feel great after doing this. The number one, focus should be, I want to help this person along. But I think that, that's just an inspiration to, push others, regardless of where you are in your career. If you're seeking out a mentor, if you are a mentor or can be a mentor, or you're someone who is right in the middle and can go both ways, find one and be one. It's that inspiration to, just push people that way to do it.
Yeah. You had, brought up being a younger leader. Like I also understand I still have plenty to learn. Like I can definitely mentor, but I still seek out mentors, and I know I will continue. Like I do not pretend I have all the answers. And so whether it's surrounding myself with people who do have the answers or can, I can learn from and I can grow my understanding, but at the same time, like, we can have that knowledge share. Once again, going back to the team, we all have our roles to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so Phil, as we talk about, just, that continuing to grow as a leader, you've reached kind of this executive director, CEO level position, for, the Ronald McDonald House in the Inland Northwest. Outside of mentorship, how else are you continuing to develop and grow as a leader to just, to just be that much better?
Good question. I would say right now, when we were going, you had asked earlier about, how do you balance change or putting in new initiatives? So when I took this job and this opportunity, I knew this was a big step. And I knew it was like, okay, you are really taking a big step. So you've got to be prepared to, face a steep learning curve. And it is a big step, and it's been a steep learning curve. So, kind of going to that idea of situation is also understanding, like right now, like, hey, like I have a huge opportunity and I am going to learn so much right now. So it's being present in that, hey, I don't need to necessarily be looking for the next big thing, because the next big thing is currently happening right now. And so I have a lot to learn and to catch up. And so I think what I am really enjoying is building that full leadership team right now, and promoting people in, and also understanding. I was just talking to my assistant the other day, and one of the things she said, she was like, I really enjoy that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I don't need to be threatened by that. I think that's where, as a leader, you can have a downfall, is when you try to be the smartest person in the room and have an answer for everything, when sometimes you can't have an answer for everything. The world is not black and white all the time. Sometimes it's gray. And so you have to be able to lean on that knowledge. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I've just taken this huge step into this position, which I'm so appreciative of, is just trying to learn and gain an understanding of how I can continue to better myself and be the best leader I can.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think that as soon as you think you're the smartest person in the room, you very quickly learn that you're not. So just going in with kind of that open-mindedness. And I know that that's something that, I can relate to. And I'm sure you, being kind of that young, ambitious, hungry person, is like, sometimes, like, I know early in my career, and still struggle with it today, is like, I always wanted to have the answer. I always wanted to be the guy who came up with the solution, so that hoorah, but the more that you just just sit back and engage other people and get them involved and, contribute, instead of instead of leading and, dominating the conversation, more so facilitating it. That's where you're going to come up with the best solution.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I like how you said facilitating the conversation. Sometimes, oftentimes, I'm not the one who's going to come up with the answer. It's going to be as I'm reaching out to those key stakeholders and say, hey, what would work best for you? And so they may come up with a piece of the answer. They may come up with the answer. And I'm just like, that's what we're doing. So yeah, oftentimes when you're the leader, you are not the one who's coming up with it. You are facilitating. I like that.
Awesome. So Phil, if anyone in our audience today, wants to learn more about you, about the wonderful work being done at the Ronald McDonald House Charities of the Inland Northwest, maybe they're looking for a mentor or looking for a mentee, how can people reach out to you if they, are inspired by our episode today?
Yeah, absolutely. I am on LinkedIn, and then if you go to our website at RMHC Inland NW for Northwest.org, you'll find information about the house, ways to volunteer, our staff, our mission, what we aim to do, all the opportunities for fundraising and development that we have. Along there, my contact information is in there. I'm happy to give that out and post that so that if people, do need someone to contact, I'm, definitely available. And I think anytime we can get that knowledge share is really good. I just went to a conference of other executives about a month ago for the house. And it's really fortunate to be a part of this organization because I would say the other executives and CEOs are always willing to share. And so feel free to reach out because I, may not have all the answers, but I might be able to give you that one little piece that's going to help you out. So
yeah, you don't need to be able to fill the whole puzzle, but you might have that piece to be able, that someone else is missing. So I think that's awesome. And we'll add all of your contact information, your LinkedIn, your email address, and the website in our show notes. So that way the audience can, access that. Phil, just want to say thank you so much for being a guest on the Tips for Team Building podcast, where our mission is to inspire and propel others along in their leadership journeys. Really enjoyed the opportunity to reconnect and share your wisdom with our audience, and just look forward to continuing the dialogue with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Jaden. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tips for Team Building podcast, where we propel others along in their leadership journeys. If you enjoyed the show, would you please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listened? You can also visit www.spiritmco.com to find out more about how Spirit Consulting inspires virtuous leadership. We'll see you next time.